Welcome to lesson 4 of our sequence of lessons looking at programming in Python. We're going to be looking at how selection can be used in Python today and what is selection. You can see a new word has been added to our word wall, if and else, and selection. We've also got comparison. Our key questions today are: what is selection? Why do we need selection in coding? And why does selection mean that code will not follow a sequence? So first of all, what do you think is missing? Pause the video and try and write down the answers. First of all, we should have print as the first option. The second one should be input, and the third one we've got missing a plus. Please find this page in your workbook and try and correct the answers. What do you think the syntax errors were? Pause the video now and complete this. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. You should have already finished this. The first one, it should have a lowercase p. Look at the others and they have lowercase p's. The second one, the U is missing in input. The third one is missing speech marks before the hello. The fourth one is missing a bracket after input. The fifth one is also missing a bracket at the end of the speech marks after hello. And the final one, input, should be a lowercase I. How did you do? Your next task is to log in to Trinket, find lesson 4, and I've made 5 errors. Can you help to fix them? Let's see who can do it first, and the first person to fix them all will get a reward. Let's start thinking about what selection is. So I'm going to count down from 3 to 1, and I'm either going to clap. If I don't clap, you'll pat your head. If I do clap, you're going to clap back. 3, 2, 1. So you should have clapped back. 3, 2, 1. So you should have patted your head. Now, if teacher claps hands is called a condition. A condition is where we have a choice. So, for example, if you don't do your homework, you'd get a detention. Whenever you have a condition, you're going to have an output. We've now got 3 options: if, elif, and else. Elif comes from else if, pushed together to make one word. We can have multiple elifs if we want. Here we have some scratch code also using an if. Can you spot our condition? Our condition is the green box. It's distance to mouse pointer greater than 10. And in this game, if that's true, our fish would point towards the mouse pointer and move 3 steps. Let's think about this word conditions again. Now we have lots of different conditions we see every day. Please pause the video and try and write down a condition that you think that you might have considered. Let's have a look at some of your conditions now. So you might want to look at the animation going with this slide. First of all, we usually have our print. What's your favourite food? We then have our inputs. Food equals input. Hopefully this shouldn't be new for you. What we can actually do is give a different output depending on what the user selects. So that means it's not going to run in a sequence because it's not going to run all the code. In this instance, if they type chips, it's going to print delicious. Otherwise, it's going to print chips are better. Now look at the structure of our code. Our if and our else are perfectly lined up. But our prints are indented. That means they're a little bit inside our if. Now this happens so that we know all the code that's inside the if, and we can use the tab button on our keyboards to tab that code in. If that code's not indented, you will have a syntax error. Our condition is food equals chips. Now food is our variable. We have two equals because we've got more than one option, so we can think of it that we've got more than one option. We've got two options, we've got two equal signs. And chips is in speech marks. Now that's like a string, like when we type something into the computer for an output, like on our print we use speech marks. We then have a colon at the end. This is the end of our condition and says then. So let's look at that first line again. If food equals chips, then print delicious. Else, and at the end of the else we have a colon again, print chips are better. Now with else we don't have a condition. This is everything else. If they didn't write chips, they could put anything. Chocolate, they could put chicken, they could put Nando's, they could put anything they wanted. And we couldn't put every single condition in. So we use an else to collect everything else. So as long as they don't type chips, it's going to print chips are better. Here's another example in Python code. This time we're saying, what is your favourite team? What's our variable name? Can you figure it out? Our variable name is team. So team equals input. They'll type their answer in. It's then got two options. If team equals united, then it's going to print yes, they're amazing. Otherwise, else, it's going to print no, united are better. Remember, we have two equal signs in our if, and we have a colon at the end of the if line. I now want you to go back onto lesson 1 of your chatbot on Trinket. And I want you to try and extend your code so you've got an if and an else. If you've managed to do an if and an else, you can add an elif in the middle. Look how I've done that. Our elif also has a condition, and we can have as many of these elifs as we want. Try and complete that now. So now we've managed to program some ifs, I want us to have a look at some logical statements. Find this page in your workbook and try and figure out what you think the answers would be. So highlight the correct answers for me. You also need to complete Python questions 3 and 4, but these are a little bit harder. So if you're struggling, don't worry. Let's now look at the answer. X is 5, Y is 11. If X is greater than 10, it will print yes. If Y is less than 10, it's going to print no. Otherwise, it will say no values match the criteria. What did you think was going to happen? So first of all, X is 5. So our if statement, X is not bigger than 10. So that's not true. So it's not going to print that. Is Y less than 10? No, that's not true either. So it would print no values would match the criteria. Your homework task is to try and explain what the keywords are that we've learnt today. You can find this page in your workbooks.